Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the seminar organized by the ARC and also generously funded by the Tin Ka Bing Foundation. We are happy to have Professor Pang to be with today. And then Professor Pang will deliver a talk on the implementation of structural equation modeling in education, mediation, moderation, latent growth, and cross-panel model. And then Professor Pang is a professor and in the Department of Psychology at Sun Yat-sen Hospital. He serves on the editorial boards of several prestigious psychological journals and has received several awards, including the 8th Outstanding Achievement Award in Higher Education Science Research, Youth Achievement Award from the Ministry of Education. His research focuses on advancing statistical methods for latent variable models, contributing significantly to the field of education and also psychology. Okay. Before we start our the talk today, and we would like to invite Professor Chu Ming Ming to present a souvenir on behalf of the Tin Ka Bing Foundation. Professor Chu, please. Without further ado, let me hand it over to Professor Pang.
Okay, thank you. It's my honor to be invited here to give the talk of structural equation modeling. Okay, since there's a time, I have no speak English. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation or no, the seminar. We will talk structural equation modeling, and under the framework of structural equation modeling, we can conduct some research about or moderation analysis. And for longitudinal data, we will talk about the latent growth model and the cost length. Okay, what's structural equation modeling or what is SEM? In psychology or education, we usually use the questionnaire, right? Okay, so there's two kinds of variable we will encounter. The one is we call latent variable. What's latent variable? The latent variable is the variables cannot be directly observed. Right? The personality. Okay. Latent variable often corresponding to several correlated manifest variables. For example, we have a questionnaire. There's many items. This item will measure different kinds of, for example, ability, right? This we call the manifest variable. Okay, the structural equation modeling is regarded as the most powerful modern statistical method to analyze the relationship between latent variables. Essentially, the structural equation modeling basically is a regression type model. But in this model, the independent variable or dependent variable or both are latent variable. Okay, traditionally, SEM consists of two parts, and the structure model. The measurement model relates the manifest variable with its corresponding latent variables. It's just a CFA model. For example, yi equals to mu plus lambda omega I plus epsilon I. Here, yi is the observed data from, for example, the questionnaire. Okay, and omega I Omega I is the latent variable we interest in, and lambda is the factor loading matrix. It reflects the relationship between the manifest variable yi and the latent variables omega I, and epsilon I is the measurement error. I will take an example here. For example, two-factor CFA model. In this model, there are two factors and 8 items. For example, here, item Y1 to Y4 is measured, used to measure factor 1, and factor 2 is measured by Y5 to Y8. So we can see that Y1, Y2, Y3, and Y4 only load on this factor. There's no cross loading to factor 2. And Y5 to Y8 only measured, only load on the F factor 2, and there are also low cost loading on factor 1. So this relationship, the relationship between the item and the factors is defined in what we call the factor loading matrix, lambda. Okay. The second part of the structural equation modeling is the structure model. The structure model just a regression type model. We use it to analyze the relationship the latent variables. So we will partition the latent variable into two parts. One is eta I and the other is Ci. Eta I we call the endogenous latent variable, just like the dependent variable, just like the dependent variable. And the other Ci is the exogenous latent variable, just like the this is dependent variable, this is independent variable. Okay, so we can see that this equation is just like a model. We will use this structure model to analyze the effects between the endogenous variables and the effects of exogenous latent variables on endogenous latent variables. Okay, this is a path diagram for a full structure equation model. We can consider the SEM is the confirmatory factor analysis model CFA plus path analysis. In structural equation modeling, we will focus on the relationship between these four, we call latent variable, these four cycles, F1, F2, F3, and F4. So our research will focus on between them. For example, we will hypothesize F1 will have an impact on F3, and F2 will have an impact on F3, and F3 will have impact on F4. However, since these four are latent, the latent cannot be observed directly, so we must use its corresponding indicator or items to measure these four latent variables. For example, we use Y1, Y2, Y3 to measure F1. We use Y4 to Y6 to measure F2. When we estimate this model, the structure part and the measurement part will estimate simultaneous in one estimation system. Okay, this is the step for analyze the structure equation model. The first is model setting and identification. Since the structure equation model is basically a confirmatory analysis, what is to say we will have a model or we will have many hypotheses about between the variables, and we collect data to see whether this model we propose will support by the data. So we will set a model first. This is the model we will test, and we will see the identification. Identification means that whether the parameter estimate is unique. For example, if we solve x plus y equals to 10, so there's many solutions for x and y. And we call this is under identified. It's not identified. Since we we cannot get a unique solution for X and Y. Since after we analyze the data by the model, we will explain interpret the result based on our psychological or educational theories. So we must have the unique parameter. Otherwise, we cannot explain any results. Okay. After we collect the data, we will run the model by some software. For example, we commonly use MPass, and we can get the model fit index. If the index shows that the model is set or the model is supported by the data, we data estimation and interpret the result. Otherwise, if the model fit is not good, we will modify the model based on the modification index provided by the software such as MPass. And we will modify the model based on the theoretical consideration and the suggestion of modification index provided by the okay. This is the brief introduction of the structural equation modeling. If you want to learn more about the structural equation model, you can refer to these two websites. Okay. In psychology or in education, we usually encounter the mediation analysis or moderation analysis. The definition of mediation. The mediation is that first, we will see X, the independent variable, have some impact on the dependent variable Y. And we want to know how is what is the mechanism of this impact. So if the influence of X will first impact on the variable M and then in turn to Y, we can call that M is the mediator, or M is mediated the relationship between X and Y. Okay, we are mainly focused on the mediation effect A times B. When we after we estimate the model, we can easily get the mediation effect. We just use the estimate of A times the estimation of B. The important part is to test whether this indirect effect or mediation effect is significant. There's several methods we can use to test the significance of the mediation effect or the indirect effect, but the usually or the recommended method is often bootstrap. Okay. For the mediation analysis, that is the effect size. Maybe we will know what is effect size in experimental design or experimental analysis, right? But the effect size for mediation is more and more important now. Several papers have recommended if we conduct the mediation analysis, we will also the effect size. But now there's universal acceptable standard for report the effect size of the mediation effect. And several papers suggest that we should report the standardized effect. And the software, for example, the MPass, SPSS, or the R package will give the standardized estimate. They recommend that use the standardized estimate of the mediation effect. use this as standardized estimate of the mediation to use as the effect size index. So effect size index, there's no universal acceptable standards. Okay, this is the effect size. Okay, let's have a look at the empirical study of the mediation. This is the paper just online in child development. Okay, this study aimed to examine whether and how the parental social comparison shaming undermines Chinese adolescents' presence of the knife meaning, focus on the mediating role of competence, need satisfaction, and the moderating role of another variable. This we'll talk about later. Okay, this is the design, the research design. So yeah, we can see that now we will recommend that we collect the data in different time point. Okay, before we will collect all the data simultaneous, but now we can see that they collect the independent variable in time one at time one, and collect the mediation variable mediator at time 2 and the dependent variable at time 3. Oh, okay. The design is more strict now. Okay, this is the result then. Significant. The only significant mediation effect is from T1. We just have from the T1 parental social comparison shaming to the least satisfaction and T2, and then to child presence of life meaning at time 3. This is the only significant path estimation. Okay. In this paper, they also use bootstrapping analysis to test whether this mediation effect or indirect effect is significant. So they conduct a 95% of confidence interval. And this interval does not contain 0, so the mediation effect is significant. The other mediation effects are not significant. The whole effect is this in orange. This part in orange. Okay, this is the mediation. The moderator. Okay, for moderator, we will see that the variable C. When we change the value of C, the relationship between X and Y will change. For example, C is a variable about the gender. Okay, in female group, for example, in female group, this true X and Y, the relationship between X and Y will significant. And for male, maybe there is no significant effect between these two variables. Not just the size and the direction, and all the direction is okay. One is positive correlated and the other is negative. Or one is bigger, the other is smaller. One is significant, the other is non-significant. The moderator. Okay, we can see here this equation. We'll talk about the moderation at the interaction effect and the interaction effect. From the statistical point, we will test the coefficient before the interaction term C, right? If C is significant, we can talk the moderation. The moderation is significant. But what's the difference? What's the difference between the interaction and the moderation? You see the second equation here. From the first step to the second step, we will have two options, right? Two options, right? We can choose put the X outside of this part, and we also can put Z, right? Why there's only one choice here? Because in moderation analysis, we will define what is independent variable, what is dependent variable, and what is moderator first. So from the first to the second, there's only one choice, only one choice. So you can see that the relationship between X and Y, this relationship is the function of Z. If the value of Z change, this term, the value of that will change. Okay, this is the difference between of the interaction effect and the moderation effect. Okay, for the interaction effect analysis, standard of the two independent variable can be symmetrical. Both of them can explain as the moderator or symmetrical. There's only one moderator here, but as talked with before in moderation analysis, this is very clear which variable is independent variable, which is dependent variable, and which is the moderator. Okay, the identifier of the two cannot be interchanged. So we only have one choice here. Put the X outside here, since Z is the moderation. Okay, this is the same study we talked before on published online, the trial development. They also analyze the moderating role of the Filicov parity belief. So we can see that they also measure the variable at different time point, because now many journals cannot accept we collect the data collect many variable simultaneous. Then we can collect the variable and time point, then different time point. Because if we collect the data, so many variables simultaneous, we are difficult to interpret the arrows. Why is this variable to this variable, right? If this the variable measure in time and time 1, and this variable at time 2, so we can easily to assume that the effect must from time 1 to time 2. Okay, this is the moderator. So after the analysis, they only find the moderation effect of the child reciprocal field parity at time 1 to moderate the effect of the parental social comparison shaming at time 1 to the child competitive need satisfaction at time 2. This is the estimation, the parameter estimation, the standardized result and the p-value for the interaction. Okay. This picture shows why the moderation is work. So we can see that there is a stronger negative association here, right? The association between these two variables are both negative, but for high value of the child endorsement of reciprocal Filicov parity at time 1, the relationship is more negative. It's more negative, and this is less negative. Okay. The next part is about the longitudinal data. when we talk about the moderation and mediation, although the data are collected at different time points, we will not talk the design is longitudinal design, because in longitudinal design, we will connect the same variables and different time points. In the example of mediation or moderation, we will collect one variable at time 1, the other variable on time 2, and the other variable on time 3, not the same variable. Longitudinal design refers to we connect the data of the same variable and different time points for the same subjects or participants. Okay, there's some recommendation of them. For example, the number of repeat measurements should larger than or equal to 3. Because when we have true measurement, we cannot describe the trajectory of individual development, right? Because there's only one choice. There's linear, the linear line, right? Okay, and the other is the structure of the data, because the T repeat measures are from the same subject. So this repeat measurement is correlated. So we cannot use the traditional, for example, the traditional regression analysis, right? Because in regression analysis, we assume that true observations are independent. So we will use, for example, multi-level analysis, multi-level linear model to take the correlation of the repeat measurement into account, right? And another is the time interval. The time interval of the repeat measurement can be equal or unequal. Okay, in this paper published in 2021, they talk about the issues need to be considered in longitudinal research design. If you want to know more about the detail, you can refer to this paper. They talk about 4. When you decide the longitudinal research, you pay more attention on the time scale. On the time scale, what is the time scale? Is you repeat measure the variable in hours or in days, weeks or months scale. And the times of measurement, how many measurements are needed, depends on the model you want to use to analyze your data and the time interval because when the interval is large or wide, maybe we can log the change. We cannot see the change. And if the time interval is too short, the change maybe not occur, right? So another is the time point. At what time measure taken? Okay, depends on the kinds of variables. In longitudinal data analysis, we have different model to analyze data. For example, the continuous variable and longitudinal panel data. Then we can use the cost-length, latent variable growth model, and so on. For the intensive longitudinal data, we have another kinds of models, for example, dynamic structure equation modeling, time variant effect models, and so on. Talk about the intensive longitudinal today. And for categorical variables, there are also some kinds of models. So for the long-intensive longitudinal data, we will usually use the latent growth model, latent transition analysis, latent change score, or cost-length panel data. We will talk about the latent growth model and the cost-length panel model today. So for different kinds of model, the requirement of time points will be different. For example, the latent growth model will have at least 3 measurements. And latent transition, true is okay. And coarse length panel model, more than true is okay. But if we use more complicated coarse length model, the time point of the when we increase. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the measurement invariance. Since we measure the same variable at different time point, so we must make sure the variable we measure in time 1, at time 2, and time 3 are the same variable, right? Are the same variable. If the variable, the meaning or the definition of the variable is not the same, we cannot talk about the change, right? So how we can make sure we measure the same variable at different time? We use the measurement invariance or the longitudinal measurement invariance. So if we use if we conduct a longitudinal data analysis or use the latent growth model or coarse length model, we will first test the measurement invariance of the variable or maybe the latent variable you are interested in. In measurement invariance, we will test the configural invariance. The configural invariance refers the same factor structure across groups or time points. If the questionnaire is the one dimension for male and 2 dimension for female, so the configural invariance is violent, right? So we cannot test the measurement invariance. Okay, and if the configural invariance is accepted, we will follow by the metric invariance. We talk about the factor loadings. The factor loading just you can consider the factor loadings as the slope in regression. What's the slope in regression is x increase 1 unit, y will increase beta, right? The metric invariance is to guarantee the latent variable, for example, your ability increase 1 unit, and the item and the score of item, the increase is the same for different time point or different groups. Okay. The following is the scalar invariance. The scalar invariance just the intercept. The intercept is, for example, in regression, the intercept means that when the independent variable is 0, what's the value of the dependent variable, right? Okay. So the scalar invariance just make sure the origin point is the same across the groups or the time point. Okay. Some paper also suggest to test the strict invariance, and some paper also saying that it's not a matter, not an issue to strict invariance. Just configural invariance, metric invariance, scalar invariance is okay. It's okay. Okay. Now, when we talk about the latent growth analysis, it's a simple model. Latent growth analysis is just used to see the overall development chain of the variable we're interested in. For example, we want to know the academic performance of the student across different years. So we can use the latent growth model. What's the difference between the latent growth model and the traditional regression model? Since regression, we also can conduct a regression to fit a line to the academic performance, right? We just use the time as the independent variable and use the academic performance as the dependent variable. Why we talk about the latent growth model? Because in latent growth model, the initial level and the rate of change are both latent variable. So we can use another regression to analyze what other covariates will have effect on the initial level or rate of change. Okay, this is the equation. This equation here. We mainly focus on these two parts. So each individual will have its own intercept, its own rate of change. But since in our data there are many subjects, so we cannot estimate each individual linear line. So we assume that the initial level are concentrated in a mean, and this is the residual. So there is a mean initial level and a mean rate of change, and each individual's initial level or rate of change are a little bit different from the mean, since there is a residual here. If the variance of the residuals, these two residuals, is large, it means that the difference of each person is large, right? Is it here? The larger the variance of these two residuals, the greater difference between the individuals, because we assume that each individual is the mean. The value of each individual is the equals to the mean plus residuals. Okay, this is the path diagram, the latent growth model. For example, we measure the academic performance Y1, Y2, and Y3. So we can use this repeat measure to form the latent growth model. This is the intercept. This is the slope. So the factor loadings here are all equals to 1, and the factor loadings to T1, T2, and T3 we can divide. For example, 0, 1, and 2 to represent the equal measure. The measurement interval are equal, and the change is linear. So we can divide T1 equals 0 equals to 1 and T3 equals to 2. Okay. Here we can start here. Yeah, here. If we use 0, 1, and 2, we will define the first time point as the initial time point. But if we use -2, -1, and 0, the original is time 3. The starting point is different. Okay, what's the difference between the latent growth model and the multi-level model? These two models can help us to analyze the repeat measures data or longitudinal data, right? And the latent growth model and the multi-level model are equivalent model, because if you write down their equations, you will find that they're the same. But the main difference of them is the latent growth model is usually to estimate the trajectory of the variable over time. And the multi-level model only used to take the data structure into account. For example, the nested data. In the multi-level model, we usually is not focused on the development chain of the variable. Okay, for example, we will use this the range income. Range income, repeat the measure 6 times. So we can use the linear growth model to check the development chain of that. We also can include the covariates into the analysis. For example, the time invariant covariance just as gender. So the time invariant covariance will here. Here, because the development trait is represented by the intercept and slope. So we in this analysis we will how the sets influence the intercept, the initial level, or the rate of change, or the slope. We can also include the time varying covariates, such as the working hours every day. So this kind of covariates, the model here, because in Taiwan, the working hours through its income. The second measurement will influence the second time of income. This is the so in the latent growth model, we'll talk about the other result, the mean of the initial level and the mean of the rate of change, because we will focus on the development trait of the variable, for example, the income, right? And the variance of the initial level and the variance of the rate of change, because they can tell us if whether the individual difference are large or small. And sometimes we will talk about the correlation between the residuals of initial level and the rate of change, right? Because we can sometimes interpret this result as when one person have high initial level, and this is associated with a high rate of change of the outcome, or associated with the no rate of change of the income. If we have the covariates, we will also interpret the covariate, time invariant, or time varying. Okay. How we can include the nonlinear term, because in our analysis not using the linear model is not usually useful or can be represent any phenomena. So we can include the quadratic term here. So there is intercept, initial level, and linear rate of change, and quadratic change here. So there is another term we will add to the latent growth model. How can we set the loadings? If we set the loadings 0, 1, and 2, 3, and quadratic term, the loading for quadratic term is just the 0, 1, 4, and 9, just the square. But if the model become more complex, they require more measurement time points. For example, if we fit a linear latent growth model, we just need at least 3 measurements. But if we want to fit a quadratic function, we are required to have at least 4 measurements. And the model is the more complex the model, the more difficult to interpret, because the intercept and the slope is very easy to interpret, right? And then quadratic term is the rate of change, the rate of change of the slope. Yeah, the rate of change of the slope. And so it's very difficult to interpret the term when the model is complex. So we can see in the paper they usually include to quadratic form. It's very few paper talk about the cubic and so on. Okay, when the design become more complex, we maybe have two sets of repeat measure variable x and y. So for x or for y, we can fit the latent growth model separately. But if we put these two sets of variable into one system, we can see more analysis we can do. For example, we can talk about the initial value of, for example, the health. The intercept of the health will have influence on the intercept of the academic performance. For example, the intercept of the health will have the impact on the rate of change. And so on. Okay, let's talk about when we conduct the analysis. We will talk about how we will often ask how many sample size we need to. Okay, but unfortunately, there's not a universal standards for here. But there's some paper we can cite. For example, one paper suggests that 50 participants, and some papers suggest more than 100. But there's the usually recommended method now is we will conduct a small simulation or Monte Carlo simulation study in, for example, the software MPlus to check the if the power, the statistical power achieve point A, how many sample size we need. Just a simulation. In the simulation program, you can change the number of the participants. You can see, for example, when we assume we collect 50 participants, the statistical power may be 0.6, and we include the sample size to 80 and run the program. Maybe the statistical power will increase to 0.8. So in this, and this will suggest at least will need to collect at least 80 participants. And we will encounter missing data in longitudinal design because we will connect data at different time points. So when we connect 1, 2, 3, and 4, participant is not going back here to report his data, right? The missing data in longitudinal analysis is very complicated. Yes, I remember that when I was a PhD student at CU, we will have a team just to investigate how to build the model of missing data in longitudinal analysis. Okay, in the software, in not just as the MPlus or LISRO, the method to treat the missing data is just the full information maximum likelihood and so on. But there is a strong assumption of this method. They assume that the mixing is completely random mixing or random mixing. This is really strong assumption because this assumption is talk about the data, whether the data is missing is not depends on anything. It's just a chance. It's just a chance. But in longitudinal analysis, the usual situation is, for example, in medical research, the patient feel he is better now, so he will go back to the hospital, right? Or the patient feel worse, so he will consider that there's no need. We continue the treatment, right? So the missing data in longitudinal research is more complicated. Usually, it will depend on something, not just a chance, And use the method used in, for example, we just talked the M+. There's another requirement is the missing rate. The missing rate is always required to be less than 20%. If the missing rate larger than 20%, the statistical methods did not work. The parameter estimation will really poor. They are become more and more biased. Okay, and have a look at this empirical study about the development of complex problem solving. They use a latent growth model to do the data analysis. There is two dimensions of complex problem solving. One is ACQ and the other is APP, right? So in this analysis, they find that first, the change of ACQ and APP are linear, since the quadratic term is not significant. And when they put these two sets of change in the same model, they also find that there is some correlation about between, for example, the intercept of ACQ and the intercept of APP, the range of change of ACQ and the range of change of APP. But there's no correlation between the intercept and the slope. There's just the relation, the significant relations between the intercept and slope and the slope. So we can explain that. For example, the students with good performance in ACQ will perform well in APP, right? Because the relationship, the correlation coefficient is positive. And this is also positive. So we can explain that the student with large increases in ACQ will have large increases in APP, right? But since this is only the correlation, so this interpretation can be exchanged, right? The student with good performance in APP will have good performance in ACQ. That's okay, right? Okay, and in the second study, they include the covariates here. They want to check whether the reasoning will have an influence on the intercept or range of change of ACQ or APP. They only find that the reasoning only have significant effect here and here, right? So, for example, they will talk about the reasoning significantly positive predict the intercepts of both CPS dimensions. So if the ability of reasoning is higher here, the student will have higher intercept in ACQ or APP. And for the development, the rate of change, they only have significant effect on APP and not in the ACQ. Okay, this is the latent growth model. And we can remember that in latent growth model, we will focus on the developmental trait of the variable. For example, here we will focus on the development trajectory of ACQ or the development of APP, right? And then we will evaluate what the impact of the covariates on this development. Another longitudinal data analysis model is cost-length model. It's very different from a latent growth model. We can see we talk about the path diagram of the cost-length model first. So you can see that we are not interested in the developmental trajectory or trait of the variable. We mainly focus on whether the variable in previous time will have an influence on another variable at another time. For example, here, so the cost length here. For example, the t minus 1, x at time minus 1 will have effect on xt. This is auto-regressive effect. And the y at time t minus 1 will also have effect on x at time t. This is the cost length effect. This paper in 2021, there's one sentence in their paper. They state that cost length regression model are by far the most commonly used method to test the residual effect, the prospective effect of one conscious on another. Okay. When we use cost length model to analyze our data, we will usually do descriptive statistic, right? And since we are conduct a longitudinal design, so we must do longitudinal measurement in variance to make sure whether, for example, the S variable measure at the 5 time points are the same. If they are not the same, we are difficult to interpret the change, right? And then we do model comparison and baseline model, one-way cost length model, and two-way full cost length model. But in paper, I usually they usually do M4, not do the model comparison. Okay, and if the model fit is acceptable, we can test about the equivalent. For example, this auto-regressive effect, are they the same at different time point? We can test the cost length from S to A. These effects are the same across different time points. We can also test. Another test is the cost length effect of A to S across different time points. Okay, fine. And interpret the result. There's the 4 models. First, we just not include any coarse length. We just have the autoregressive effect and the correlation between the 2 variables at the same time point. And then we'll add the one-way coarse length and compare M1 and M2 to see whether we can accept, whether M2 is accept or whether M1 is accept. Then we can compare M3 with M2 and M4 with M3. But now this model, just do the M4, the full model, and to interpret the model, since sometimes some of the coarse length effect are not significant, So they will not do the model comparison between the M1, M2, and M3. They just analyze the M4. Okay, that's what 这个 random. Okay, in 2 or 3 years ago, when we conduct the coarse length model, is okay. Many journals on you coarse length model is okay. But now, when we submit the paper and the paper is analyzed by the coarse length model, the reviewer usually suggests a random intercept coarse length model, right? Because this paper, in this paper, the author talk about that the traditional coarse length model may indicate there are reciprocal effects when this effect does not exist, or may fail to detect them when they do exist. So many reviewers now will suggest, okay, traditional coarse length panel model is not good. It's not good. And you must use the random intercept coarse length model. 2024, there's another paper to talk about these 2 models. They argue the random intercept model are not usually better than the coarse length model. Why the traditional coarse length panel model is not suggest? Because in this model, we cannot distinguish the between person effect or the within person effect. So the reviewer will talk that on the estimate or the parameter estimate of your coarse length model is biased. This is the random coarse length model, the path diagram. So if we use this model, we can participate the effect into the between person part and the within person. So in this within part, the autoregress effect or the coarse length effect is purely the within person effect, since the between person effect are partitioned here by the random intercept. So maybe you can consider it as this is the trait, right? This is a trait for the person. This is the state. Okay. When we use the the cost-line model it can be fitted with data from only 2 time. We want to use the random intercept cost-line model. It requires at least 3 repeated measures. The more complex the model, the more repeated measurements are needed. Okay, this is the professor introduced the random intercept and the intercept cost-line model. She also suggests many free extensions of the random intercept model. So if the data is, we can use one of them. We can use one of them to analyze. For example, we can. For example, NI may be the personality, right? The personality will not easily change across time. So we can consider NI, BSI, and ASI as the between part, between person, between effect. We can also do some regression analysis in the between person part. For example, we can evaluate the effect of, for example, the personality on the state BSI and BAI, right? Because this is not include the time, just the I. Okay, this is more complicated model. It's more and more complicated. This paper is published in 2020, and after this paper is published 3 or 4 years, there's no empirical study to use this model because this model are very complicated. But now there's one in 2024. They talk about the longitudinal reciprocal effect of energetic engagement and autonomy support. Okay, just two variable, and they are measured at 4 time points. And 4 time points, they also do the measurement in variance and conduct the and calculate the alpha coefficients here. And the control variable will be gender, school type, and SDS. Okay, this is the model. They use the random intercept model, but they are more complicated than the model we talked about just now, since this is latent variable. This is the latent variable. But the idea is the same. This model is the same with the model published here in this model. And in this paper, they not only present the model, they also provide the M-plus code for each of the model. So if you use this model, you can refer to this paper and find the M-plus code and just modify the code to your analysis. Okay. They find that the autoregressive effect is significant, and the cost-length model, the cost-length effect are also significant, and they also find that the autoregressive effect and the cost-length effect are the same across different time points. So it is the only one paper I can find to use the really complicated, really complex intercept Okay, this is the reference. This is a reference. If you are interested, you can refer to this paper for more details. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for Professor Pan's very innovative and informative talk. Now is the Q&A session. Do you have any question to ask?
Thank you for the interesting talk. Can you go back to the last slide? Or not the last slide, the one before, with the random intercept cross-like panel model. So yeah, that's fine. So I think you mentioned earlier that there's a critique of the early one without the random intercept. And then I think you also said that even this one, there's still problems with it. Is that correct?
Mm.
So what are the remaining problems with this one?
Because if you see this model, we have two methods to participate the effect into the individual, within individual or the between individual. One is we use the item. We partition the item into two parts. One is for the within, one is for the between. And the other is we do this on item level. We do as variable level. We partition the latent variable into the within part and the between part. So these two kinds of method may lead to different results of the same data.
Mm-hmm. So once you have the different results, is there a simple way of interpreting the different results?
Yeah.
So can you say more about that?
So if we use this model and another model to analyze the data, we maybe have different result of then. So we can maybe we are difficult to distinguish which model we will use. Because I think these two models are both fit the data well. So we use the model comparison. Maybe it's difficult to choose one of them. So maybe for the result interpretation, we will focus on the theoretical consideration, not the statistical.
Right. So like the difference between them is the degree of coherence, right, of the particular components. So basically one result, you assume that the components are much more coherent than the other. And the other one, you assume that's the opposite, they're less coherent, right? And so like your interpretation would then depend on like those two assumptions, right? So it's not that it's just any possibility, it's that specific possibility, right?
Thanks for the interesting talk. I have a question about the cross-like panel models and how they're connected with the mediation models. Typically, we find reviewers now when you use a mediation model using cross-sectional data, they would say that they would expect, the variables to be collected temporally. And you've presented that, right?
Yeah.
In the child development paper, the predictor, the exogenous variable, is a wave 1 or time 1 data. And then you have time 2 data for the mediator, and time 3 data for the outcome.
Yeah.
Now, some reviewers would say that you should collect all variables in all time points to control for them in all time points. And when I hear that, I see a cross-like panel model. I'm curious where these two positions are coming from. One, the first position is collect all the data in all 3 time points and run a mediation model. I know that there's a specific research question involved to test that statistically. While the second one is you have something like this, a cross-like panel model where you have 3 time points. I'm curious why what's the difference, right, between that mediation model and this? Because I think conceptually, what's missing here for it to be a mediation model
Yeah.
is just a path from
Yeah,
the time one.
just
Correct. Exactly. So I'm curious about that. Oh, do I sound confused, or am I thinking correctly with my question? Yeah.
okay. Thank you for your questions. Okay. Just when we do the right, and if we use the idea of cost land model, maybe it's like this. So when we do this mediation analysis, we will control the same variable, but the value on the previous time. And this is not controlled, this one. And another issue we read paper, this use the idea of cost land model to do mediation analysis is that if we use cost land model, there is another mediation here. So in this model, we are ready to explain why we just interested in this and not this one. So sometimes they just use this model, but for the reviewers, they may also ask you, okay, this is time 2, this is time 3. You can also control the one in time 1, this control, and time 2. Yeah. And just use this kind of mediation model and not this one. This one, because X, M, Y, this is a mediation, or Y, M, X is another mediation effect.
In terms of the analysis, do I call the second one a mediation model or a cross-lag panel model? Or did I just test a mediation?
Cost land model.
So it's
just a
still a
cost-lag
cross-lag
model.
model.
Yeah.
But I'm testing a mediation
Yeah.
research question.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that informative talk. I learned a lot. Although I learned this in my undergrad and MPhil. My question is very easy. I'm say when we conduct experiment, usually we try to the design because it's difficult to replicate.
Yeah.
Design. So I'm just curious. Is it okay that we should when we run modeling, because
Thank you. From my point, I agree with you. The model is more. The model is what the model is. The simple model, for example, they talk about cost land model. It's intercept cost land model, right? But in this simple model, this model cannot distinguish the between person effect and the within person effect. So parameter estimate. Parameter model to achieve the goal. If you do model comparison, the model comparison which model, for example, the simple model you can choose, right? And model, we can do the model comparison.
So I think the way you think about different models is that when you have a simple model, you often make more assumptions. When you have a complex model, you're making fewer assumptions. And so last example that he talked about, where there are two different types of models, we're making different assumptions. And so what you want to do is like use those assumptions to make sense of what's going on. In terms of simplicity, I think the idea of simplicity is actually different. It's about the design of experiments. So often you want to have analyses that could be complicated and don't make assumptions. But your experimental design should be as simple as possible. So ideally, like everything is exactly the same except for like one measure. So I think you want simple design, but you often need complex analysis.
We have a lot of questions in the chat box, so maybe we show you the question. The first one is, why all variables can't be collected at the same time?
Because in our analysis, for example, the mediation or the moderation and so on, we will have an error here. Right? So if we collect the data at the same time point, we may use the fit the model like this or this. So it's very difficult to just why the arrow is from X to Y, not Y to X. But if we include the information is time, the arrow can only from time 1 to time 2. So it's more talk about we cannot collect data simultaneously, but it's for our how to write the paper or how to adjust the relationship between these two variables.
For the second question, what should we do before conducting SEM, like cleaning the data, or we can just use the raw data after making use that there is no missing value? And then the second question is, suppose that I have two models, how to compare the two models using model fit, standardized coefficient, or other methods?
Okay, when before we conduct SEM analysis, yes, we will do the data cleaning first. For example, we will check whether there's the outlier or there's the proportion of the missing data, the kinds of missing data mechanism, and so on. And because in structural equation modeling, we mainly use the information from the mean or the variance covariance of the variables. So we will usually check the variance of each variables. If the largest variance of the variable, the ratio of the largest one to the smallest one, the ratio is very large. We will adjust some, we'll use some methods to transform data, because if the variance, the variance, the ratio of the large and the small is very large, it's usually, it's very easy. It's not converge in the software. Suppose you have two models. If the two model is nested model, we can use the chi-square difference test to choose the model, or we can use the information criteria, for example, the DIC, BIC, to compare the model. And some method is to compare the difference between the CFI fit index, the model fit index, CFI, ELI, IMSE, the difference between the two models is not usually used, or it used now. We usually use the information criteria or the chi-square difference test.
Okay, we have a lot of questions. I don't know whether we have enough time to cover everything. And then we just randomly select one more, okay? This one is how to estimate the sample size of RIC LPM when there are three variables, one of which is a mediating variable. I have read the article, Power Analysis for the Random Intercept Cross-Lab panel model using the Power RP package, but it estimates two variables, and I still don't understand how to estimate the sample size of three variables. Is there any way for you to explain to this participant?
Yeah. Before, now we usually do a small Monte Carlo simulation to evaluate to estimate the sample size. So we can use, for example, the M-plus. We can write the free model, the free variables random intersect cost length model, and we just define the effect ourselves. For example, from our theoretical point, the effect of these two variables, small, medium, or large, we can set some result, some coefficient. We can come to a coefficient and do the simulation. Let the computer do the simulation. Subjects. Then you can choose. You can see when we increase, will increase 2. Will increase 2, so you can get some very rough information about at least how many sample size we will collect.
We also have, let's say, the question, can structural equation modeling be applied to analyze the effects of latent variables on multinomial categorical outcome variables? If so, what are the methodological considerations or specific SEM extensions required for this type of analysis?
Yes, we can include a multinomial categorical outcome variable in SEM. In M+, it's very easy to conduct this analysis just in the variable, but which variable is will conduct this analysis. We just need to define which variable is multinomial.
Okay, another question. Can G-Power be used to test the sample size of SEM?
No, G power is just for the experimental design, and not the complex SEM model. But for the sample size calculation of SM, there is some other R package, but I just forget the name of the R package. But in this package, the idea is the same. You just input the framework of the model and tell the package the effect is large or medium or small, and then but you need not to write all the code yourself. You just input the model, input the coefficient, the value of the coefficient is okay. But
Okay, the
basically, in the Monte Carlo simulation analysis.
Professor Pan, the last question to conclude, let's say the talk today. Can you recommend books related to longitudinal design and practical handbook in conducting data?
If for structure equation modeling, I remember that there is certainly a book for longitudinal structure equation modeling. Yeah, it's just this name or the comprehensive understanding of longitudinal structure equation modeling. Just I remember the exact name, but there is a book for the longitudinal structure equation modeling, and longitudinal design is a part included in this book. And this book will talk about the growth model, the cost length, change model, and so on. The framework of SEM, how to analyze different kind of longitudinal data.
You can give it to us maybe afterwards, and then we can put it on our ARC website. Yeah. For Professor, it's a very
Thank you.
fantastic talk.